Hi, welcome. Justine Flower here. I'd like to promote the idea that self-doubt is a means to which we can improve our confidence. And a lot of the time we don't associate self-doubt with thinking, but it is that very thought that you are having which is creating that barrier for and preventing you from moving forward in the area that you are hoping to. Now, self-doubt happens to all of us, but there is a strength that is gained from having self-doubt, but doing that activity or, doing the thing that you're having self-doubt about. Because self-doubt is like a form of procrastination. It holds us back from developing our skills further, from moving forward in certain areas of our life, from being, who we think we are now to who we would like to be. And those thoughts can be very paralyzing. But actually, they don't need to be. All you need to do is recognise your self-doubt, but give it a go anyway. And I know that sounds quite difficult. But whilst you're living in that cycle of thought, that you are not good enough, that you do not have the skills, that you need to learn more, that you need to be thinner, you need to have X in order to move forward, it's that very thing that is holding you back. And that actually is the one thing that can help you move forward quickly, is to recognise that self-doubt is thinking. But actually to go forward and move towards the thing that you want, to act instead of being paralysed by it. I'd like you to consider this, and when you're stuck in that area, when you are thinking that actually you can't do something, or you want to move forward somehow, or you want to develop in a way that you don't think you can, then just take time to sit back and notice your thinking around there. Notice if it's true. Notice if there's been other examples of this in your life where you've had that self-doubt but been able to push through. Because there's always been self-doubt. There's always been areas of that. And we learn that. We learn how to do that. It's part of our learning process. And, it's also part of our self-preservation. You doubt if you can climb to the very top of the tree, or you doubt if you can jump across this gorge. It is there to make us evaluate, to make us stop and think, is this something that we can do safely? Now, for most of us, those limiting beliefs that we have and those self-doubts that we have are absolutely self-created. And they may be from experiences that we have in the past, but then we assume every experience is going to be the same, that every experience is going to result in the same outcome. And granted, for some experiences, if you keep doing the same things in the same way, then you're going to get the same outcome. But a lot of the time that happens, we do the same experience in the same way and get the same outcome because we doubt ourselves, we doubt our ability to do something in a new way, to express ourselves in a new way, to step out of our comfort zone and stand in that uncomfortable area for a long time whilst we're waiting for that transformation, whilst we're waiting for change. And being in that uncomfortable space, it's not a natural thing. For most of us, what we want to do is step back into our comfort zone. And our comfort zone, may be fenced with those self-doubts. It may be the self-doubts are keeping you in your comfort zone. And whilst you would like to see if the grass was greener on the other side, you would like to do this, you would like to have a relationship, you would like to be fitter, you would like to be thinner, you would like to have a better job. You're stuck in your comfort zone because you have this fence of self-doubt. Now, you know as well as I do, there are plenty of people who have been able to overcome adversity, to be able to overcome those difficulties in their life. Now, adversity doesn't mean that everybody thinks that that is a problem. And you know, I look to my own self-doubt, and I look and see that I have specific areas of self-doubt that I've had to conquer. And, you know, now I'm past that. I can see the simplicity of the fact that it was just my thinking that was holding me back. But in the time, it actually seemed so real, so restricted in what I could do, that it prevented me from doing a lot of things. You know, it stopped me from actually putting things out there that I wanted to, in order to make that change, in order to make that transformation. And so, you know, I can think that there are several areas in my life that I have self-doubt about, but now I recognise them. I recognise that I'm just having self-doubt, and that's fine, you know, because sometimes I just have happiness, and sometimes I just have joy, and sometimes I just have sadness. But if I wait a while, it will pass. So I know that that emotion around that thinking is something that is transient. And if I know that, it means that I recognise it for what it is. It's just a thought. And it doesn't mean that I have to be restricted by it. It doesn't mean that it has to stop me from being able to progress, but from being able to move forward. But being actively aware that your self-doubt is just a thought helps you to move forward, because you can realise what is happening. You know, you're having these uncomfortable thinking around moving forward from progressing, and that's fine, because, you know, you just need to check that you're going to be safe and, you know, nothing untoward's going to happen to you, and then move slowly forward along your path of progression. You know, or you might want to just take a leap along that path of progression. You know, most transformations go through this process. You know, there is always a little part of some people and a very big part of other people who think, you know, whose thoughts are around, this is where I can't deliver. This is an area of weakness. This is something I cannot get over. This is something I cannot break through. And those are all just self-doubt, just a thought. And so once you can recognise your thoughts, then you can see that if you change your thinking just a little bit, it can help you progress. Being actively aware that your thinking, you know, fools you into staying in your comfort zone, staying where you're happy, and not stepping out into that, oh, here we go, we're going to do something new. It's, you know, it's not automatic. It's not something that you are comfortable with yet, you know, but it is absolutely something you can do. And I'm going to take you back now to a time when, you know, you didn't have these self-doubts. So let's talk about when toddlers start walking. You know, they get up, they try, they fall down. Yes, they have repeated difficulties in the beginning, but every time they fall down, every time they wobble, every time they don't complete that task in what we do, you know, think of as a successful way, they're learning from that situation. They're learning, okay, I've moved too far to the right, or I've moved too far forward. And, you know, all of that sensory feedback is data. It's data that you can learn from. You know, imagine if we just had self-doubt at that age. how many of us would be walking now? You know, we'd just be sitting on the floor, dragging ourselves about all the time. You know, so we learn how to have these self-doubts. We learn how to build that fence of self-doubt around our comfort zone so we don't step out of it. And here's the challenge, is that fence can be blown down at any time. And that is your choice. It is your choice to do that by recognizing that your thinking is trying to stop you from moving forward. It's trying to stop you from progressing. And once you notice that it's just your thinking, and that's fine, and then take a step, and then do something towards your goal, and then do something towards progressing. Because the more you do that, the less restricted you are by your self-doubt. Because you've had an experience where you've had self-doubt and you've tried it. Yeah, you might fail, you know, and that's the same when you're walking. But oftentimes when we're older, when we fail at something, you know, we just think, oh, couldn't do that, and then stop. Or you might try 2 times, or you might try 3 times, or you might try 4 times, and then you just stop. And oftentimes, the time when you stop is where you're actually on the precipice of that breakthrough. But yet your self-doubt has come in and said, no, let's put that fence back up. Let's step back into our comfort zone. Because actually, you know, change is difficult, not because it's necessarily hard. It's difficult because it's not our automatic response. And so when we produce our habitual responses, you know, what we normally do, what we normally like, how we normally live, if we get up and have a coffee in the morning, if we get up and not eat in the morning, if we get up and have a full English, you know, our automatic responses are the things that feel easy. You know, if you make a cup of tea, and you've always made cups of tea, then it is so easy, you just don't even think about it. And that's because you've been through that process so many times, it becomes habitual, and you understand what you need to do in order to make a cup of tea. But you've done it so many times that when you make a cup of tea, you don't think about lifting the kettle. Is the kettle full? Is it got enough water in? Do I need to put more water in? How do I open the kettle to put more water in? Which tap do I use to put more water in? You know, how do I switch the kettle on? All of those things, you know, and you can break that making a cup of tea down into 100, you know, instructions to make a cup of tea or more. But you don't even think of that because you're so habituated to it, you know, and that is one of the things that can hold us back when we're looking at change. So we have self-doubt, and then we're trying to break the routine, trying to break our automatic response to create a new automatic response. And that can be a very difficult and lengthy process. And the thing with self-doubt is, you know, the lengthy process in breaking through and making a transformation change is something that can become very tiresome, because when you do something and it is not an automatic activity, it is tiring. You know, you have to make your brain work to think, what do I do next? How do I do this? What should I be doing now? And, you know, and then you do absolutely have that conversation in your head. Oh, should I, you know, if we're talking about exercise, should I exercise today? Oh, I don't feel like it. Oh, I did a lot yesterday, but I may not do some today. Perhaps I should have a day rest. Perhaps I should have 2 days rest. Perhaps it's not good for me to do all this exercise in one hit. Perhaps what I should do is just do it once a week. Just do 10 minutes of it. Just do 5 minutes of it. Perhaps I'll just sit on the couch for a bit, you know. So you automatically have that voice in your head that is trying to drag you back to your comfort zone, to your automatic responses. And that voice can be your voice of self-doubt. Oh, I'm never going to be able to do this. Oh, it's too hard. oh, I've tried exercising every day for 3 weeks or however long they say it takes for you to have a habitual change. Yeah. And yes, you may have a habitual change in three weeks, but when it gets really stressful and when it gets really difficult, then you can revert back to your old pattern because that was so ingrained. Now, it is not difficult to get over those things, but you need to be aware, you need to be present, and you need to know what is happening when self-doubt shows up, that it is just a thought and it is there because trying to change, trying to be in a different routine, trying to have different, trying to do something in a different way, away from your automatic response, can absolutely, be very draining, mentally draining, and sometimes if you're doing a physical activity, physically draining too. And you need to be able to recognise that, because that is one of the linchpins, the leverage parts of change, that you recognise when you have self-doubt, you recognise when you want to go back to your comfort zone, and you recognise that you have built a fence around your comfort zone with self-doubt. And once you see those things, then it can be much easier for you to make that breakthrough, to make that transition, to make that transformation that you have been looking for. I hope this has been useful for you. Thank you for spending your time with me and watching. From my heart to your heart, goodbye.